I suppose you guys want to talk the college football playoff games, huh?
No, they weren't that good.
We've had better weekends for semifinal games.
Yeah.
Well, from a game and competitiveness, I think this is the first time we've had a playoff where both games were competitive and came down to a final possession.
Oh, without question. Because most semifinal games weekends so far have been trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was either there'd be like one, so like in like the first year was Ohio State, Alabama, 15, none, 16,
None.
none, 17,
Georgia, Oklahoma.
Georgia, Oklahoma, yep. 18, none, 19, Clemson, Ohio State, 20, none, 21, none. And then yeah, this one which saw TCU beat Michigan 51-45. Michigan, it felt like the 3 weeks off, it felt like they over prepared where they got away from their identity. They, uncharacteristic mistakes. They had a time where it was 3 trips to the red zone. They had 3 points, a turnover on downs, a fumble at the 1 yard line. Just uncharacteristic mistakes. They got out coached. Yeah.
Why did they try to hand the ball off at the 1 yard line to a fucking linebacker?
Well, he did play fullback. They moved him the week of the Ohio State game because he was the one that threw
So a must.
threw that jump past the Schoonmaker, and he had 2 touchdowns in the Big Ten championship game. But
Was Donovan Edwards hurt, or were we trying to get cute?
it was just a quick give fullback dive, and he didn't get his arm up big enough.
Nope.
I think
Because he doesn't have the experience.
and he
But
yes,
it's a
and
linebacker.
that was
Exactly. That's not good.
And well, and the other part of it too was, what did the ref call? Yes, but the play before probably was a touchdown, but it
The
was
play
not
before
called
that was probably pass interference, like you said. What the ref call?
You know,
Don't change. We're not talking about
this is
Michigan on defense. We're talking about Michigan on offense.
this is just me. If you're Michigan, you
But
have.
also, though, the other part too is just QB sneak it.
Thank you.
You gain 2 extra blockers,
Thank you.
and you have an athletic quarterback, which is another part where it's like, and they didn't start using JJ's legs until it was too late. But if they use that from the start, because they haven't hardly shown it all year, they did right away when he first got in, and then they kind of just didn't use it at all because they didn't really need to because they had Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. And we talked about it in the preview episode of Michigan has to force TCU to kick field goals in the red zone. TCU didn't kick. TCU converted all of their red zone opportunities into touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan didn't. Credit to TCU, their defense bowed up. They played tough. They play a 3-3-5, but they're physical in there. That nose tackle is a big dude who caused a lot of problems. TCU, they made the plays when they had to. Michigan didn't.
Dugan ripped your blitz, like destroyed.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, well, I mean, the Quentin Johnson, the 70 whatever yard touchdown where, it was, if DJ Turner makes that tackle, who knows? Michigan might be playing on Monday night, but, credit to TCU, and I think you got to give credit to Max Duggan too, because this was a guy that was benched to start the year, and he could have with transfer portal, all of that, he could have just left and said, "Oh, these coaches don't like me, poor me, I'm not going to play here."
Mm-hmm.
But he stuck it out, and he's playing for a national title on Monday night. And I was listening to Bruce Feldman on the Rich Eisen show today, and he was talking about how there were D coordinators in the Big 12 told Bruce that they were telling teams, defenses, to not hurt Duggan because they didn't want to play his backup, who was the original starter.
No kidding.
Yep.
Who's his backup again?
It was like Chad Morris or something like that.
Chad
I
Morris
think.
Jr.?
Maybe.
I mean, because Chad Morris, he was the old coach at Arkansas and SMU, remember, and formerly
Yeah.
coordinator at Clemson.
Yeah, I don't know if it. I'll let you guys do your reaction to the game, and I'll look it up and get you an answer by the time you guys are done talking.
Well, one thing I noticed is Dylan, they showed up that the stat for Michigan over these last like 6 years in their bowl games, and it's loss, 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 loss. So I'm just curious if Michigan as a whole, like for their coaching staff, if this is a Jim thing that he needs to self-evaluate, or his assistants. Why is this long layoff getting the best of them? Thing I just kind of saw as like a broad statement, because it's like they have not had success in this postseason really since his first year there. I mean, ever since then, it starts with that loss to Florida State, and it's like, you truly want to be an elite program, you have to win a postseason game and just not beat Ohio State, the Saturday of Thanksgiving. With that in, to your point, they were uncharacteristic, I think, in this game with their play calling. Their defense seemed, to be out of place, missed tackles. So just, I don't know, something was off with this team. Maybe they were looking ahead. Maybe they thought, hey, we can beat the hell out of these guys. They play in the Big 12. They've played in, like, I think 10 one-possession games this year, and they won them all. They didn't look prepared. And it seems like, unfortunately, that's a trend.
Yeah, I think sometimes too with that long layoff, where I think sometimes coaches, they just overthink things. They think, oh well, if we stick with what we do best, we can. But they over prepare, they overthink, they do try to put in too many new wrinkles. Maybe I don't that I can think of, that where it's like kids aren't, it's some tougher, more difficult concepts where I think you need to go simpler with in these bigger games, where you just play fast, you focus on what you do, like what we talked about is just do what you do best.
Mm-hmm.
Go, and when you know what you're going to do and you know where a guy's going to be, or where you have to be, and you have the defense or offense guessing, that you gain an advantage because you're just faster and you're quicker where your brain's going. And then, if you bring in these new wrinkles and a bunch of different things schematically, where it's like kids are, they're sitting there thinking, do I do this? Where you're second guessing yourself, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, Michigan has not done well. Even this is before Harbaugh, where they've really struggled after bowls. Like, you go look up like Bo Schembechler, he's got a sub 500 bowl record. I don't know, maybe it's because that Ohio State, and for the longest time, where beating Ohio State and then winning the Big Ten championship are the two biggest objectives on your goal sheet, that you're just almost too worn out by the end of it. That's kind of what I'm thinking of, maybe. And like, when I read Bo Schembechler's autobiography, he talked about it, where it was like, I know I don't have the best bowl record, and I think it's possibly because they've put so much into beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten championship. And right now, at this point, if we want to go the mirror positivity here, is Michigan's going to bring back their quarterback. JJ is going to have an entire spring ball to throw with the receivers, because he was out last year in spring because of a shoulder injury. Donovan Edwards is going to be back. I don't particularly believe this, but there's been some steam of Blake Corum possibly returning.
Oh,
I don't think that's going to happen, but him
I
back.
wonder if
They're
Edwards would even
bringing.
stay if that did.
What's that?
You'd have to wonder if Edwards would even stay if Corum came back.
Oh yeah, I think he would.
Mm,
I
I'm
don't
just
see why he
I'm
wouldn't.
just curious.
Today's portal era, I don't know if he would.
And with these running backs, if you're Blake Corum, you had a great year, maybe one of the best years in Michigan history. Coming back to Michigan, how is that going to help you in the NFL standpoint? Go and get your bread.
Yeah,
Go get your money.
Exactly.
And you can always come back to Michigan and be a legend in Ann Arbor if football doesn't work out in the NFL. You just walk anywhere in Ann Arbor and say, "Hey, I'm Blake Corum," and they're going to be throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at you. So, and especially now coming off this knee injury, why come back to Michigan and have another 300 carries? Just go to the pros, get your bag, and start building generational wealth.
Yeah, and they've got a good recruit that they're pretty high on coming in Cole Cabana, and then CJ Stokes. He'll have a off season to get bigger, learn the playbook, have a full spring ball. The offensive line they're going to lose a couple of guys. They'll lose Olu Atimi, but they've had some really nice plugins with the transfer portal, and Colson Loveland will be back. They got a tight end from Indiana through the transfer portal. The cupboard's definitely not bare, and this team will be back, and I would expect them to be. You could probably say they might be the favorite in the Big Ten going into the year just based on who they return with a returning quarterback, because Ohio State, Stroud is probably gone. Sean Clifford is gone. And the rest of the Big Ten is still, as from a talent level, is still pretty far behind those three teams, I would say.
Don't hate on Athen.
Okay.
The Greek freak is coming.
I think there's only one Greek freak, and in all seriousness, we need to respect Giannis.
Yeah. He plays in Milwaukee.
I know Milwaukee's an absolute shithole.
Fine, we'll call him AK8.
That's fair. Yeah, but the Greek freak is reserved for one person and one person only, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo there in Milwaukee.
He's also been called the Greek rifle, is another one people have called him.
Okay, that's fair. I can get on board with that, but like I said, the Greek freak is reserved for one guy, and his name is Giannis.
I suppose you're right. Oof.
So, but you guys got anything else on the Michigan TCU game?
I just thought Michigan wasn't ready for TCU's quickness on the defensive line. Like, I don't think they were expecting that. Your center struggled so bad versus them. I don't know what it was, whether he just wasn't expecting it, wasn't prepared for it, or what. But I thought the center was brutal.
But yeah, that was the worst game he's played all year, and he was the top center in the country this year. Just picked the bad day to have his worst day of the year.
Let's call a spade a spade. Let's be real.
I'm saying that Olu Atimi won the best center in the nation award, though. I don't care.
But
I don't care.
No, guys, I think let's not forget. TCU, they play that 3-3-5 defense, and ever since Matt Campbell's got to Iowa State, that seems like that whole conference is implementing that, and that's a tough defensive front to take on if you haven't seen it with those live bullets. Because to Ethan's point, those defensive linemen and those linebackers, they're so quick, and you can do so many different games. With that scheme, as offensive linemen, they start to overthink. They're like, hey, when we practice this redshirt freshman walk on, his card said he did this, but the guy across from me in the TCU uniform, he did something else, and I'm not ready for this. So, Ethan, TCU, they did a good job because they schemed it up, because that 3-3-5 is tough to face. The nose can go one way. You have stack linebacker positions where these Michigan guards, you have to block someone in space, and they're necessarily not used to that. They're used to hitting someone in a phone booth, and sometimes that can take a while to get used to. And when Michigan seemed like they were kind of getting it down and they knew where guys were going to be, it was too late, and they had to throw it all the time, and they couldn't establish that running game like what they have all year. So just in that aspect, credit to CCU's defensive coaching staff, because they used that 3-3-5 to their advantage, and it helped them get a big lead.
Yeah, and Michigan. The last thing I say before we move on, credit to Michigan, because where they got down 3 scores, it would have been easy for them to just kind of throw in the towel. Where previous years it would have felt like that, and they didn't necessarily have the quick strike ability that they had this year with JJ McCarthy. It was credit to Michigan where they at least made it a game. They gave themselves a chance to win at the end, and even in the end they just fell short. I guess it was closer than last year, and maybe third time's the charm. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, to your point, Dylan, because this year at least people weren't saying after that game, did they deserve to be here? Like what people said last year.
Oh, well, Ohio State would have given Georgia a much better game. Well, Ohio State had their chance last year, and they got ran off the field. So this is another credit to TCU, where people were saying, did they deserve to be here? Yeah, they deserve to be here. Yes, would they have been an underdog against Alabama? Probably, but at some point, on-field results have to matter, and TCU was one of the best teams all year, and now they're playing for a national title. I don't like it, but it is what it is. That's life. Just wasn't Michigan's day.
Well, when you win all the one-possession games like TCU won this year, you're making winning plays.
Yep,